All right, here we go. Sharpening, video on sharpening. Going to talk about two methods, high pass and unsharp mask. They both have advantages and disadvantages. I find that the high pass tends to not have as much detail sharpening as the unsharp mask. So we'll go over both of them. So we have our image ready to go. I have a couple layers on here, layer masks on here, adjustment layers. I need to make a stamp layer to create as my sharpening layer. So what I'm going to do is click on the topmost level or layer that I want to include in my stamp layer, and I'm going to press the quick key, Shift Option Command E. And what that's going to do is take all of these layers, smush them into one, and create a new layer with the background layer. So this is the layer I'm going to use for my sharpening effects. So if you change anything after you've done the sharpening, you're going to want to redo that Shift Option Command E to create a new stamp layer to take those changes into effect. So let's go with the high pass method first. So with our layer selected here, we're going to go to Filter, Other, Filter, Other, High Pass. Mhm. Oh, under here? Yep. So this right here is the previous filter that I've used. I want to be able to change the high pass settings. So I'm not going to use this one. Whatever filter was the last filter I used will show up here. Yep, just keeps the last one. So I'm going to go to other high pass so I can adjust these settings. So if we take a look with the high pass, it kind of puts this haze over the whole image on our layer that we created. So there's three ways you can kind of do the high pass filter. Start off with it all the way to 0 and move it up until you start to see lines of the object. So right about there, and hit OK. Other option is go straight to 10 pixels, or third option, go straight to 50 pixels. Up to you which option you choose, worth playing with depending upon what you want to do. I'm going to go straight with 50 just to kind of show you guys the example. What I do from here on out will apply to the 10 pixel option, but not necessarily the move it up until you see lines option. So I'm going to hit OK, and now I have this layer with this haze on it. So now I'm going to go ahead and change my blending mode. So I have three options we really want to pay attention to: overlay, soft light, and hard light. So if I click overlay, you'll see that it changes this particular layer so I now can see through it better, but my image looks very contrasty. All right. If I go to soft light, it's still pretty contrasty, but not as bad. And as I turn this on and off, in here especially, you can start to see it come in and out. Okay. If I go with hard light, it's going to be really almost like what I like to refer to as crunchy. Over here, you can definitely see the difference between the image. My preference is soft light, but again, some people like that really over-sharpened, crunchy, faux HDR look that can be created with this. I'm going to go with soft light. I'm going to zoom into 100%. No, this is just a blending mode on this layer we created and then applied the high pass filter to. So I'm going to zoom into 100% with my soft light layer on, and I'm going to bring this down a little bit because I don't think it's going to be, I don't want it to be too much. So this is where that difference between 10, 50, and just sliding it up comes in. If you just slide it up to when the lines become visible in high pass, you more than likely do not need to do the opacity adjustment. Okay? So here's soft light, here's overlay, just for argument's sake, and turning those on and off, you can kind of see a little bit of a difference in some of these areas. But you'll notice here the bird is getting lighter and darker between, this is soft light, and lighter with the overlay. That one, the high pass option, is going to basically allow for a little bit more contrast between the areas of the image. So not necessarily the pixels, but the areas of the image. So we can see the tree branch gets darker while maybe the background gets lighter, so on and so forth. So I'm going to shut that layer off. I'm going to click on my top layer here, and I'm going to show you guys the Unsharp Mask sharpening option. So I'm going to do my stamp layer again. Now I've shut the high pass layer off, so it will not be included in my stamp when I create it. So I'm going to hold on here, make sure it's highlighted, Shift Option Command E, brings up a new stamp layer. Come up to filter and see the high pass is still there from the previous one I did, but I don't want that. So I'm going to come to filter, sharpen, unsharp mask. Now this is going to bring up a different dialog box, and I have my ability to preview and not preview. Let's put these all the way down to 0 so you guys can see what's going on. So we're going to move this until we get 100% of where our little bird is, somewhere in here. Here we go. All right, so this is this area right here. I could probably just have clicked, and there we go. It'll do that as well. So I want to take a look at these rocks. As I slide up the radius, it's going to take more pixels into consideration. As I slide up the amount, it's going to sharpen more. So see how that just got a lot sharper. I'm doing the preview. Can you guys, I can see it on here. I don't know if you guys can see it up there. Yeah, let me slide it back down to radius. See, there's the radius change. And then if I bring the amount down, it actually changes. The higher I put up the amount, you're not going to get as much of a change as if you start moving the radius up. So see how I'm moving the radius up? It's getting more and more, again, crunchy. All right, your threshold, you probably want to leave that at 1 or 2. As I move this up, see now it's softening it. So that's how it's going to kind of counteract what you're already doing. So leave that at 1 or 2. And then, your radius, you don't want to push it up so high. That's where you start really getting that. Now it's up to 38. It's starting to really get that faux HDR look. And you're also starting to get what's referred to as, see how the tips of the wings here and around the edge of the rock almost are glowing? That's referred to as haloing or a halo. You don't want that. It's a telltale sign of too much HDR or too much sharpening. Some people like it. Some people find it as their aesthetic. That's fine. For me, it says sharpening error. All right. So right now, this is not desirable for me. So I'm going to bring my radius back down. I'm going to look at my preview here. I'm going to play with my amount. I'm going to put my radius at 2. Let's see how 2 looks. That's pretty good. Bring my amount down and play with that until I think it looks pretty good. So I'm going to turn my previews on and off. And I can see it a little bit, but it's not going to be anything crazy. So I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see again kind of what we got going on. So notice the detail is getting a lot sharper in here. Okay, if I turn this on and off, the detail is getting a lot sharper. The contrast between pixels is changing. My color of the sky is not changing at all, unlike the high pass. So here is the Unsharp Mask, on and off, and we can see the detail in the rock becoming sharper. With the high pass, we can see the contrast between the edges getting sharper. All right, so for me, for this particular image, I want to probably use the Unsharp Mask because I want to sharpen the details in the rock. Unsharp Mask is also be good for people's faces, like eyelashes and things like that. You're not going to want to use it if somebody has really bad skin problems because it's going to just make that worse. But if you want to bring more attention to the eyes or maybe the lips or something like the hair, if it's a lot of textural hair, that Unsharp Mask is going to work really well. The high pass is going to change contrast a little bit and work in a little bit of a different fashion. So it's really up to you as to which one, let me zoom out a little more here, which one you want to go with. You use one or the other, yeah. Let's turn on both just for argument's sake. So there's the Unsharp Mask on, and there is the high pass, and see how it just compounded and it made it even stronger. So I'm going to trash the Unsharp Mask or the high pass on this one and just stick, for me, with the Unsharp Mask because it's really doing a nice job with the rocks. That's what's important to me is the texture of the rocks here. I really want to make sure I bring that out and highlight that. All right, so for you guys working in your large prints, the Unsharp Mask may not necessarily be the best option if you enlarge the image a lot because it may sharpen details you don't want to sharpen because they're starting to fall apart. So the high pass may be better. If it's a slight softening of the image that is you're losing a little bit of detail, not a lot, the Unsharp Mask might work well. So you have to play with it. There's no real hard and fast, this is the right way to sharpen. It's going to be what works best for the image you're using. Okay? Questions?